So, welcome to What I Know Now. I'm delighted to have my first guest on the show. That's Barry Wyse. Barry is the VP of Engineering in Dimension Data. I've known Barry for, I think it's working out about seven years.
About that.
So 7 years. So Barry today is going to share his journey to becoming VP. He's also going to share the future of technology, cloud, and also his learns along the way as well. There'll be a variety of other topics covered today, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Barry, if I could start off and give me a bit of an overview about your journey from starting off in technology to where you are now.
Okay. So I guess way back from school, I went to UCC, and I was in the first class to do computer science in UCC.
Wow.
So this was graduated in 1982.
That's a milestone.
So that was a very interesting time. It was completely new, so very exciting. Took a year out and travelled, then basically went and did a master's in computer science in UCD here in Dublin. And then basically got my first job in Cork in a company called Motorola Four-Phase, basically as a software developer working on Unix systems. And a year and a half into that, basically I got the opportunity to move to the States, to Silicon Valley for 6 years.
Wow.
So that was really exciting. So I spent 6 years there in a variety of startup companies, a lot of hardcore software development on Unix. Back then it was basically the Unix variants were being converged onto System 5 Release 4, so did a lot of porting of that stuff onto the Sun Spark platform. Got married, had a couple of kids, and decided in 1992 that no, we wanted to come back to Ireland to raise the kids here. So I came back here and I got a job at Lotus for a couple of years, then decided that I thought I wanted to move from being a software developer up the management path.
Yep.
So I went to Microsoft for a year, and basically lasted a year there.
Right.
And decided I want to go back to being a techie. Okay. So then went to this great startup company called Isocor.
Yep.
So Isocor did messaging initially for telcos, but then internet messaging. So I spent 8 years there, and on a hands-on techie role initially, but ended up being VP of engineering there, with responsibility for the team in Dublin and the team in the US and in Berlin. So that was great. It was quite a ride, quite intense. Isocor went public.
Yep.
So that was quite an intense time, and then basically they were bought by a company called Critical Path. And I spent 2 or 3 years after they were bought by Critical Path. It was, at the time I thought, okay, I need to take a step back. It was quite intense, a lot of travel, a lot of late hours and stuff.
Full on.
So I decided, no, I'm going to take a break and basically do something less stressful. So I went to work for AOL.
Okay.
Managing their data warehouse team, and that was definitely an easier role to take. And I stayed there for 3 years, and then I decided, no, I actually. Taking a step back isn't something that, maybe I needed it at the time, but it's not something that I want to do long term.
Okay.
So I got back into a more technical role and went to work for a company who were a services company for Magnet, the TV company. So we basically did services for those. So IPTV, a company called Industria, very interesting company. Their headquarters are actually in Reykjavik in Iceland. So I used to spend, a week a month or so in Iceland.
Making the move to the States, that was a pretty big move.
It was, but I mean, this was back in the late 80s, and it was. I just happened to get an opportunity to. Somebody I was in college with was working there. He was an American citizen, and basically he told his boss that there were some super engineers in Ireland that he should really look to hire somebody.
Wow.
I just happened to be in the country at the time. He arranged an interview. It went well. He sponsored me for a visa, and all of a sudden I was in the States in Silicon Valley in San Jose. So I spent 6 years there. It was great. I mean, it was very. I mean, Sun had just started. It was a great time. Yeah.
What do you think your biggest learn was when you worked in the States for 6 years, or was there a few kind of common themes that you came back to Ireland with?
Yeah, I guess their attitude to taking risks is slightly different to ours. We're a lot more conservative.
Yeah.
So they're prepared to take risks, make mistakes, and fail.
So your most recent role now, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I've been here now for 6 years at Dimension Data. I was hired on to OpSource, which was a startup company that basically was in the cloud space. So their whole thing, I mean, I guess OpSource originally was a managed hosting company.
Yeah.
So the idea is if if IT is not your core competence, why are you hiring IT people? Why have you got a computer room and people pulling wires to collect your network? Why don't you outsource the whole thing to us? So that's what the whole purpose of OpSource was. And they started getting into cloud, which is really virtualizing your IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
So they basically, there was a company in Ireland called Lekela who were doing billing for software as a service. OpSource partnered with them, liked the company, bought them, and then over time decided to make the team here their cloud team.
Yeah.
And that I joined at that stage. They had launched their public cloud offering. They basically had one data center in Virginia, and they were basically marketing and selling cloud services mostly in the US.
Yeah.
After being here for a year, company was bought by Dimension Data.
Yeah.
And the focus changed. Dimension Data, I'd never heard of Dimension Data, but they're quite a large company, 25,000 people, about 30 years old. Originally started in Johannesburg in South Africa, and really they're an IT services company. They have done a lot of work with Cisco, so selling Cisco kit and then selling services on top of that.
Yeah.
But basically they were looking around at the time for they had a lot of big customers that they were trying to upsell.
Yeah.
And they were, cloud was in the hype, and they were talking about, how can we leverage this cloud technology? So they were looking for some cloud technology. OpSource at that time was about 10 years or 8 to 10 years old in terms of we're looking for a company with deep pockets so that we can take this cool technology and invest in it and basically bring it globally. And so they bought OpSource, and we became part of what was then called the Cloud Business Unit, which was the first division of Dimension Data that was organized globally. So it wasn't regionally focused. It was basically our purpose was to build cloud technology that we could then, and we could have the other regional divisions of Dimension Data sell.
Yeah.